there, ref. That she got the ball. Good evening and welcome, fans. And this is one of those nights where I think it will sort of break our season or make our season, to be honest with you. I think it's a 6-pointer tonight. Win, you stave off that relegation talk for a little while longer yet. You lose tonight and results don't go our way. We are well and truly dragged right into the thick of it. So it's a big game. This isn't about style of play, identity, performance. It's just all about putting 3 points on the board, no matter what. But as always, through these difficult times, we try to bring you, some good people to try and have conversations around what's going on and stuff like that. And hopefully you enjoy yourself here this afternoon with us. But always, we want you guys to get involved. Feel free to get your questions in, your comments in. I'll try my best to bring them in as we go along and stuff like that. And if you want to throw support our way, feel free to do that. But the best way you can do that as well is by running them likes up for us as well. It's a free thing everyone can do. Jack, how are you this evening, sir? I mean, look, it's a big game tonight. There's no hiding away from it, right? You nervous?
Yeah, I'm very nervous. As I said to you guys in the back end, we're going into the lion's den here of relegation talk, relegation battle. The goal, the objective this month was to pick up 4 points. You could say this is a really good chance to do it. Felt like maybe there was an opportunity against Man United. Now we have to dust ourselves down, move on to this one, and hopefully this is the game where we do that. And if we do win today, just at least relieves ourselves for the next, week and a half or so, because I do think we are desperate for a win today. And yeah, Dave, looking forward to it. I mean, it's not great when you're, nervous and kind of excited when it's a relegation conversation, but at the end of the day, maybe that is the thrill, like I brought up a few weeks ago, being in this situation, is that every game is important. We're not even close to being on the beach yet. So looking forward to it.
Nowhere near it, and hopefully the players don't think they can put their feet on the beach either, Jack, because if they do, then it really is. It's times to start worrying. Dermot, how are you today, sir? Keeping well?
Yeah, keeping well. Looking forward to the game tonight. Jack said it is into the Lions' den or into the Magpies' den, whatever you fancy eating for your dinner. A bit of steak or a bit of magpie, a bit of vegetables around it. Look, Newcastle not in great form either. So it is the game of the two crappest team in the Premier League. Eddie Howe's under pressure. Thomas Frank's under pressure. Romero suspended. What could possibly go wrong? I think Tottenham at the moment, I like that night in the Monty Python film when it goes, but it's only just a scratch and I'm going to carry on. He's lost his legs. He's lost his arm and he's still going round in circles. That's Tottenham at the moment. But yeah, we're going to win 3-0. We're going to batter them. We're going to take 3 points and everyone's going to be rosy. Thomas Frank's going to be the new hero after 90 minutes tonight. So, yeah, looking forward to the game. Come on, you Spurs.
Well, actually, Dermot, despite my reservation around Thomas Frank, I actually hope that's what I am doing tonight. I can sit there tonight, have a cigar after the game, and you know what? Just go, Dave, everything's going to be okay for another couple of weeks. That's
just put on your Bob Marley, your Bob Marley record. Everything's going to be all right.
Exactly, lad. I'm not sure my neighbours will be happy with that about 1 o'clock in the morning when we get finished here, but I certainly will be. Søren, how are you, sir? I mean, look, you're here with us this week. Next week you might be with us with armbands or in a raft or something like that. But how are you keeping?
What score prediction was that, Dermo?
Pardon?
What score prediction did you do?
3-0.
3-0.
What are you smoking? It's going to be at least 5 or 6-0 tonight, Dermo.
That's why you and me are work. So that's why Dave and Jack get us on, because they know we're going to bring the positivity to the stream. 5-0. Okay, I'm going 6-0. Sorry,
yeah,
I'm going
really
ahead
disappointed with you. Normally, we're on a pretty similar wavelength, but I've got to the point this season where I just don't give a shit anymore. I really don't. It's like we might as well just come on and just wish for the best. I actually do, and I don't know why, and I know I'm going to get slaughtered, but I actually feel quite positive tonight. I think the performances have been a little bit better. I think we've almost started to look like one or two of our players know what Frank's asking them to do, and I don't know why, but I see us winning. I really do, and I just think tonight could be one of those nights where, look, Newcastle haven't been great, especially away from home, and I know we haven't been great at home, but I don't know. I just have a feeling that tonight could almost click, because we're down to the bare bones. These players know that it's all down to them. We've lost our captain, and maybe that will help a little bit. But
Well, we'll have to have a big discussion around that in a while.
yeah, we will. You know, I mean, Newcastle have battered us a few times over the last few years, and it's always a worry sometimes where you think, shit, we've got to play Newcastle. But I don't know. I just have that. I don't know if it's a feeling or if it's just blind hope or what, that tonight is going to be our night. And
Hopefully.
you know, I think Jack or Dermo just said it, you know, we were looking for 4 points out of these games. I think tonight we'll get the 3 points. We've already got a point. And then that leads us perfectly into next weekend when we're going to absolutely smash them.
Yeah, for sure. 1 second. Hello? Yeah, I've got the culprits here. Sorry, that's just Basuma ringing me. He wants his balloons back, boys. He does. No, but look.
Sorry, and I told you not to tell him we were taking them, you bugger. When did you tell him we were taking them?
No,
you
but
didn't tell me. You told me to blow them up. So what did you want me to do? I kept blowing, and it kept just deflating back into me.
We floated out of there.
Though, we don't actually have a good record against Newcastle over the last few years. However, they're not in great form coming into this. I think they've only won 2 on the road in the Premier League all season long. So this isn't beyond the realms of impossibility to try and get something tonight. It really just comes down to whether we turn up with the stomach for the fight or not. Also, I think the atmosphere has a massive part to play tonight, which we're going to start with. I just want to welcome a few people in here first. We've got Wembley 1. Good to see you, sir. Afternoon, boys. The scarier the game, and they're all scary now. The more we need the uplift on this game day show. Big up, guys, and to all in the chat. I will try my best to try and be uplifting where I can, but it is hard for me to hide my feelings about what's going on in Tottenham Hotspur and stuff. So, you know, I'll try and be in a good mood and try and be a bit jovial, but there are going to be times where I am just going to have my say on things and stuff like that. But in general, I do think, despite us being angry, at some point we do have to find the stomach for the fight, realize where we are, and try and park the frustrations and stuff and dig in and try and help pull this team over the line. I do agree with that for sure. Big up Wembley 1. We've got Limpy down under. If another media pundit defends Frank because he's a good coach and has a lot of injuries, I'm going to flip my lid. Anyway, despite him, let's get a win today. Limpy down under, all I would say to you is, you look at the way they hounded Jose, Conte, Ange Postecoglou out of the club, and why they're sitting there going, oh, give Frank time, he's a good coach, this, that, and the other, in terms of the media and pundits. I don't think I've seen any other manager out there with more tactical videos or a day inside Brentford than what Thomas Frank has given them. So you play the game, you're going to get a bit of leeway from them in terms of headlines, articles, and stuff like that. But to be honest with you, I was saying this to Jack behind the scenes. A couple of weeks ago, I was watching Crystal Palace after they signed Brennan Johnson, and Sky were sitting there going, you know, well, Brennan Johnson's coming now. He can start crossing the ball for Mateta. And I'm like, well, you clearly haven't watched him at Tottenham then, have you? Because the guy can't cross a football. So, I mean, this is the level we're dealing with now, Limpy down under. You know, you're not allowed to be honest anymore on any of them platforms. Has to be all positivity and everything else. AK Shakes, come on, you Spurs lose today and we're fucked. Come on, boys, tell. We'll come on at 17-minute mark and score the winner. I don't care who scores the winner today, to be brutally honest with you. We just need someone to find something. Big up, Shem Tam. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. Hopefully you're eating a kebab tonight. You can have one for me. That'd be lovely. Anthony Gonzalez says, come on, you Spurs. Good to see you, Ratty man. Stating the obvious, but this really is a big game for us tonight. Come on, you Spurs. Absolutely. And says, afternoon, chaps. Good to see you in the building. We've also got Man Like Danzo. Like that name.
Great name.
Big up, lads. Good to see you. Hopefully it's the real Kevin Danzo. Rhythm is a Danzo. Leo Starman. Good to see you. Hi, guys. Hopefully you're keeping well. We've also got Fantasy Mutt Mac Shane in the house. Evening all. Come on, you Spurs. Give us a win. We've also got Thomas. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that last, because to be honest with you, I'll be doing you a disservice. I'll end up butchering it. So we're going to nickname you Tommy or Thomas from now on. He says, good luck to all Spurs fans. We must win this. Absolutely spot on. J-Mac, big up Davey Ladd, Jacko, Soren, and Dermot. Come on, you Spurs. Big up J-Mac. Great to see you in the building. We've got Dennis Daly with us. We need 5 wins over the rest of the season. Newcastle are flaky and poor away, so we have a chance. I think we will take at least 1 point, hopefully 3. Absolutely spot on. We've got Peter Merrin in the house. We need a big win. Big time. Absolutely spot on. Good to see you in the building. We've got Mr. Fraser in the house with us. Big up, lads and chat. Good to see you, Stevie. Hopefully you're keeping well. We've also got Samurai in the house. He's gone 10-0. Hopefully that's the Tottenham Hotspur. Kurt Smith says, big up, Dave. Don't know how I feel about today. Kind of sick of it all now. My NFL team won the Super Bowl, so I'm happy. Football we're absolutely cooked. Yeah, look, I don't think anyone really knows how to feel right now where we are. Look, I don't think anyone envisages us being back down here this season, not even the board. You know, that's the whole reason why we made the change in the summer, so we wouldn't be back down here. And you would argue probably worse off for that change, probably worse off than what we were last season. It's scary, and this is the disappointing thing about it, Kurt Smith. So, and to be honest with you, you know, it was sad the other day. I was speaking to the Outlet. Not sad that I was speaking to the Outlet. Of course, that's great. But he was telling me about when Tottenham went down, you know, in the 70s. And, you know, they did come straight back up the following season and stuff like that. But, you know, he didn't enjoy his time down there, you know, in the old League One, I think is what it was at the time. And I've never even been close to this in my lifetime. So I don't even know how to feel, Kurt Smith. So I don't expect you to either, my man. Big up and good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. Good thing is Kildare are winning games in the GA at the minute in the league campaign, which is good to see. We've also got Paul Brown. Good evening, gents. Going for a hopeful 2-1. Come on, you Spurs. Big up, Mr. Brown. Good to see you in the house. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. I'll take the 2-1. Like I said, I'll take any scoreline at this minute, just as long as you're on the right side. Drop kick your teacher. We don't play Arsenal next weekend, Soren. There's a break. You know what Soren means, though. Drop kick your teacher. You know, there is 12 days, but you know what Soren means. Let's not play silly buggers here now. We've got Wilson in the house. Afternoon, chaps. Feels like a big one today. Must win. Absolutely spot on. Carpy, look, fellas, the truth is we have to aim for relegation this season. Relegation is the only way to get the owners out and have a complete change in the entire club. I disagree completely. You know, yeah. I don't want to run the dice of getting relegated just so these guys would go. I think if people turned up to, you know, protests and stuff that were organised, then, you know, we wouldn't have to get relegated for it to happen, would we? Who else have we got here? We've got Hug the Love Bear. I mean, we could all do with a bit of that right now. How you going from down under? Good to see you in the building. Hopefully you're keeping well. We've got Dustin. We need this. Come on, you Spurs. Logan's in the house. Good evening, fellas. Big up to all. I just want to see a win tonight. It's been forever. Come on, you Spurs. Absolutely spot on. I presume you're just in from walking that lovely dog of yours, Logan. Good to see you in the house. And we badly need a win tonight, my man. He's also sent in a super sticker. Jacko, he does this every single stream.
It's a beautiful big diamond. Hopefully that's what we're rocking today after a nice win, Logan. And yeah, I think we're all just hoping for a win, no matter how it comes. It could be the ugliest performance possible. At this stage, we can't be beggars or we can't be choosers, right? We have to just hope for and beg for any win, however it comes. So hopefully Frank Ball delivers, Logan.
Yeah, absolutely. Big up, Logan. Good to see you in the house, my man. We've got THFC in the house. Big game day today. Come on, you Spurs. We've got this from John Arnold. This club thinks we are, us fans are mugs. We are sleepwalking into the championship. I was about in 1977 when we went down. This ownership have gambled on not backing or sacking Frank. Absolutely spot on. And I think, you know, there's a big, probably inside the club, we're too big to go down. You have that mentality towards a relegation battle. That's when you end up going down. I'm sure Newcastle, Aston Villa, Leeds United, West Ham in years gone by all thought they were too big to go down. They all suffered that fate. And if you go into it with the attitude where everyone sits there inside the club and doesn't take it seriously, you're in big trouble. Del Boy, big up Dave Jack. Soren must win game today. Absolutely spot on. We'll take a couple more comments and then we'll crack into it. We've also got us 4 left. I don't care if it's pretty, just want the W. Honestly, I'm gone beyond the point of style of play, this, that, and the other. Frank just hasn't been able to deliver it. It's just about finding a gritty win, just getting over the line. It's all it's about right now, my man.
Yeah.
Good to see you in the house. We've got Team Bag 2 says, I must win today, lose or draw. He should be sacked right away. Well, look, we will have a question around what we should do over the 12-day break if things don't go well. And Ollie, good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. I've seen you at the Aviva at the weekend, my man. Hopefully you enjoyed your day out. It says, lads, I'm so worried we are going down. Badly need a win. Wish we sacked Frank in November. Well, I think, look, Ollie, you know me. I sort of had my reservations from the beginning around how this appointment was going to go, the lack of ambition, and I haven't seen anything over the season that's filled me with any confidence. And I just think the longer you keep this guy in the job, the more you're sleepwalking into it. You know, the thing is, I think we've got, 2 wins in our last 16 games. We're averaging 1 win every 8 games, and teams around us are picking up points. Keep going like this, we're going to be sucked into it. For me, we should have made a change. We should have made a change months ago. Should have actually made it after the West Ham game again. Didn't. Now we're stuck here with the guy. I'll be honest, if we lose tonight, I would still rather take the gamble and and go and get someone else in, because I just think sometimes when you look at the likes of Carrick at Man United, wasn't thrown into an ideal situation. Had Man City and Arsenal, 2 of Man United's biggest games of the season back to back. Fulham, then us. He's gone and won all 4. And sometimes just fresh ideas, fresh tactics,
Yeah.
you know, a fresh voice sometimes can just really lift the group and get something completely different out of them. And I'm at that point where I'd rather take that gamble now, to be honest with you, Ollie Freeman. But good to see you in the house, my man, and hopefully you get back in time tonight for the game, sir. Big up, King Hoddle. Good to see you. Romero is a disgracia to our football club. The bozo psycho down clown needs to be dispatched back to Buenos Aires ASAP. Come on, you Spurs. Very harsh words there. And Tom, good to see you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. And also Peter Simon's in the house. Good to see you. And Dermot has been very generous as well, sent in a super sticker. He's trying to start war with Logan here. What's he sending in?
He's just sending in a cool guy with shades on. Dermot's feeling confident, seems like, Dave. He went 3-0. He got 1-upped by Soren, and now he's doubled down. He's putting on the shades on. He's going 6-0 celebration.
He's really challenging his Basuma today, isn't he, Dermot?
Yeah.
But look, let's get into it, guys. I mean, look, we've got plenty to talk about tonight. I mean, look, Jack, we'll kick this off with you, and the boys, you can come in as well. I mean, we kick off to today's show well and truly in a relegation battle with 6 points off the drop zone. Thomas Frank was asked about needing the support of Spurs fans during this period. He said, we desperately need them because when you're in a situation when it's not going straight forward, you need the fans even more. But that relationship hasn't always been the best this season. You know, Frank has directly, and I find it ironic that now he's calling for the fans, considering he directly criticised the fan base on more than one occasion this season, questioning whether fans were true fans, you know, because they had made their feelings known about Vicario. And then also, he questions whether we should actually be in the Champions League. And it's mad that he's taking all the credit for it now, but he actually questioned whether we should be in the Champions League at one point and that it wasn't earned and completely dismissed. You have to go and win a Europa League to be in it, which therefore means you have to go and earn it. So, you know, he's angered Spurs fans. And then there was something else about social media fans as well, questioning his tactics and stuff like that, which I find absolutely mad. But I mean, Jack, do you think that Spurs fans can park that frustration, the anger, the mistrust within the manager, the players, the football club in general, and unite behind the team for one clear objective, which, as we speak today, is Premier League survival, no matter how difficult sort of it gets? Or do you feel that the damage maybe has already been done and that if performances don't improve quickly, the boos and calls for Frank's head at the players, at the club, are likely to continue, which will keep creating a toxic atmosphere every home game?
I don't expect the Spurs fans to be blindly optimistic because the situation is quite dire. So I'm not expecting them just to, even if we were 2-0 down, just to be still clapping and still cheering on the team. I think they will be still very reactive to what ends up unfolding. I hope that they can park, or just put aside all the ridiculous statements that Frank has had about seeing the bigger picture and, social media fans versus real fans, all that stuff. It's probably one of the biggest disappointments is we've now had 2 managers in a row now that have called out the fan base and taking no responsibility themselves for the actual results. It's just, I think, very cowardice from both managers, really. And I hope that maybe Spurs fans, maybe even including myself, can put that aside and almost in a way channel this survival instinct that we're now finding ourselves in, where we do have to try to survive relegation. We probably do have to park aside all the frustrations, all the issues we have with the team, the manager, the players, and just really try to get behind our team, at least, until, things get worse, I guess. But we have to just park aside all those frustrations and really try to cheer on the lads and hopefully that they can feed off of that and then be able to churn out some results. But would I expect them just to be clapping vigorously or clapping till their hands are red, like J Mac was saying, if we went 2-0 down? No, I think as any fan base would, you would be reactive. Even like teams that are in the best possible position, if they see their team playing terribly, they see them go down 1 or 2 goals, quite quickly. You don't often see them still cheering the same way they were when it was 0-0 when the game just got kicked off. So hopefully, Dave, the fans can park aside some of these issues and some of the wrongs that Thomas Frank has done and just try to get behind the team as much as they can, just surely for survival, right? Just to try to avoid, this relegation scrap, to be honest.
Yeah, because I think, from Thomas Frank's point of view, it's like regardless of what happens on the football pitch, even if we do go behind, he's sort of speaking of the collective coming together and being the 12th man and almost pulling this team over the line and stuff. I mean, Soren, look, do you think the majority of the fans can sort of park their distrust with everybody inside the club and make this the home of fortress for whatever games we've got left for the rest of this season? Or do you think it's too far gone now?
I think it's a double-edged sword, and it's a vicious circle type thing. But I've said it many a times that I think no matter how the team is playing, no matter what we think of the manager or the players at the time, for me and my opinion, and it's different to a lot of people's, I think you should cheer your team all the time. And then when it gets to half-time stroke, full-time, you give the boos, you give the days, you do what you've got to do. But during the actual match, for me, in my opinion, you're there to support your team. And I know it's, if you're seeing the players playing shit, why, as fans, why should you cheer? And I get that argument, but it's one of those where I think as soon as you start booing during the game, the players go down even further, and they're already shell shocked. They're already scared to do anything. But fully understand the reasoning behind why people think opposite to me. But I do think that, for the remaining games, it doesn't matter whether you believe in Thomas Frank, whether you believe in these players. We're now, it's a shit show. We're really up against it. And as much in my little bubble of a world, I don't see us being relegated. I know it's a possibility, and I know, we're not far from it. But this is the time now that I just think, as fans, we need to just get behind the team. Doesn't matter what's happening on the pitch. We've got to get behind the team. If at halftime, full time, the performances are shit or whatever, you give them your frustrations, you give them the boos. They'll still know that you're booing if you're booing at halftime. But I just think during the 45 minutes of each half, that, like you say, we've got to make it we've got to make it a noisy atmosphere. We've got to make it so, as bad as we're playing, we've got to make the other team not want to be there neither. If we're making lots of noise at the beginning, the other team hopefully think, shit, this is a noisy place, blah blah blah, and that might just lift the players. It might not, but I just think now everything has got to go our way now, and it doesn't help any of us fans standing there booing and shouting and screaming obscenities to our players when they're already in the in this situation. Yes, it might be their fault. Yes, it might be Thomas Frank's fault. Yes, we might not agree with him being the right manager. We might not think the players are good enough. But for them 45 minutes in each half, we've got to forget that, and we've just got to get behind this team, because if we don't, we could be playing in Division or Championship. And look at Leeds. Leeds were a big team. They went down and it absolutely destroyed them. I'm not saying that's going to happen to us, but I don't want to see that. I don't want to take that risk. If we go down this season, then as bad as we think it is, it could get worse. Could get a lot worse.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of people's fear. Look, AK Shags also says, I'm in violent agreement with Soren. Fans have the right to boo, but should not, because it negatively impacts the players. We need to be like every sports 2 years ago. And, I was thinking about this the last couple of days, and it's sort of like, don't get me wrong, as much as I think Thomas Frank should hear fans' disgruntlement, as much as I think the players should also hear it, along with the board, along with Vinay, along with Johan Lang, I get it, and I would be one of the first ones, if I was over there, to be letting them hear my frustration. Believe me. However, I think we do have a decision to make at some point. I've seen teams go down, stadiums half empty come the last few games of the season. There's no fight left within the club, within the fan base, and everyone's resigned to it. Or we can just park our frustrations between now and the end of the season. They can all come back out again in the summer, can have honest conversations about get this frog gone, that frog gone, everything else. But I think you've got a decision to make whether, we sort of just try and get behind the team, beat that 12th man, make the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium a hostile, horrible place to come, and sort of give everyone our support just to try and get ourselves out of this situation, sort of like a marriage of convenience till the end of the season. Now, of course, there's no guarantee that if we sit there and we clap and go, Basuma, You are brilliant. That these players are going to pick up and be enough to go and win games and all that sort of stuff. But I would rather try than go down fractured like I've seen other clubs do before, where there's no fight left within the manager, the players, the ownership, the fans, and everyone just wants to get to the summer, go their ways and stuff like that. I don't want to go down like that. I want to go down fighting if we go down at all. So for me, I think that's the decision we have to make within the fan base on that one.
One thing I will say, Dave, is, I mean, Leighton's just come back, and we know me and him don't always agree. But, he's saying the players don't care if we go down, they'll just go to another club. And
that's true.
As much, I think it is true, but I also think it's not true, because these players don't necessarily want to be the ones that put their name against a club that has been relegated. What sort of way is that? How did you do when you played football, Dad or Granddad? Oh yeah, I took top one of the biggest teams to go down for a long, long time down. There is still, as much as I get what he's saying, I do think the players still have some pride in not wanting to be in a team that gets relegated, especially one that's not expected to get relegated. Thomas Frank won't want his name against a team of Tottenham's caliber that's been relegated. The players won't want their name. But, I do understand where he's coming from, because, it's a job and you move on. But a lot of these players might not be able to move on. The club might not sell them. It's as simple as that. But I would like to think the players and manager have enough pride within them to not want to be the players and the manager that take this club down.
Yeah, like the embarrassment of being relegated if you were those players.
Yeah.
Like, some of these guys have been brought in for 40, 50 million pounds. And you would imagine that they would have had no expectation of being in this position. So it's up to them to sort of get themselves out of it. And if they don't, like Soren is saying, imagine being those players that were the ones to get relegated at Tottenham Hotspur. There would be a bit of a shame and embarrassment about that. I agree.
I do agree with that. But, if we're using that logic.
Yeah, there will be players that don't give a shit. And I get that, I mean, maybe, and I'm not saying this player exactly, but say like a Basuma or somebody like that. But you can't tell me, the younger players, maybe like an Archie Gray or a Bergvall and people like that, they won't want to be in this team that got took down.
The thing is, I don't think anyone will want to be. That's the thing. I don't think anyone will want to be. But the reality is, we're heading down there. Even though they've got pride now and everything else, we're still accelerating down there. And sometimes, for whatever reason, you just can't pull yourself out of it. You can't flip it. And right now, I think this is what this game is about tonight. Sort of just trying to flip it a little bit and give some momentum in our side and stuff like that. I do take your point though, but when you do look at a lot of clubs that go down, they do have a massive squad turnover within the summer. They don't like carrying the risk of having them wages like that down in the Championship and stuff like that. And that's where I do sort of agree with Leighton. They will force their way out of this club one way or another.
But I mean, your players like your Archie Grays and your Bergvalls and I don't think they'll be sold on. They'll be the ones that will have to stay. They're the ones that will look into the future. Yes, maybe your Porros and your Van der Ven and your Romeros. I get it with them, but there's still. I mean, these are professional players, and like I say, I do understand where they're saying, that they don't give a shit. I do think they'll give a shit because they won't want to be in a team that's been relegated. But I get the sentiment of, they'll move on and that's it. They've gone. It's forgotten about. I understand that, but I don't know. I mean,
we just got hope, right?
Players. Yeah, I mean, you get players that just think they're too good to be in that situation, and I understand it from that point of view. But I also think, when you look at the team that's out there now, maybe that's why we are playing a little bit better, because maybe we are down to the players that actually want to play for the club. Who knows?
Well, look, the hope is that everyone can sort of band together and pull us out. But I have seen teams before that have the talent to be able to get out, but for some reason, and end up falling below the curve because they just can't pull themselves out of it. Look, this is what tonight is about winning games. I do want to take a few comments, but I want to bring Dermot in here. I mean, Dermo, where am I in my list of questions? I mean, look, tonight Spurs facing Newcastle side struggling on the road. They've only won 2 away games all season and are coming off the back of 3 straight defeats. on paper, this should be a perfect opportunity, but Tottenham's home form has also been dire this season. Tottenham have won just 2 Premier League games at home all season long, 4 draws, 6 defeats, and that's a poor record at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and it's played a huge part in why we actually are where we are, sitting down in 15th. We picked up just 10 points from a possible 36 at home this season. That form sort of usually leads you to one place, and that is the Championship. Now, we've heard Thomas Frank talk a lot about the power of the collective in his latest pre-match press conference. How important are the fans tonight in trying to get 3 points tonight? Can the crowd become the genuine 12th man and help drag this team over the line when it matters most? Or has the anxiety of a relegation battle turned Spurs' home ground into a pressure cooker rather than an actual advantage, which is what your home stadium is supposed to be?
I think we need a bit of a history lesson here, right? Back in 77, when we did go down, everyone was together. The fans, the players, the club, they fought to the very end. And players like Glenn Hoddle, Steve Perman were in that team that went down. The legends of the football club. Steve Perman, who won trophies at the beginning of his career under the great Bill Nick, was in that squad that went down with, and Glenn Hoddle as well, that went down with Keith Birkinshaw. Came back up the following season, and then we went on to win 2 FA Cups and UEFA Cup. The year on the Aussies' first year, we nearly went down. We had to go away to Oldham to get a victory to stay up. We were together. We were all together that night, that season, and we had a horrendous season. I think that was the worst season I can remember. It that this season very mirrors that season for me, with all the injuries we had. We couldn't win at home. We just couldn't buy a win, and I just feel the fans were with us then. I feel the fans will be with us now. I do. I think the fans will get behind the team and park it. It's down to the players to show that they care, that they want to give it all. They don't want to go down. And yes, Newcastle are on a bad run, but we haven't won yet in 2026. Our last win came away at Crystal Palace in December. So we've gone through the whole of January without winning a game. We've started now the start of February without winning a game. We can't get a win at home, which very mirrors the 93-94 season, the first year under Aussie, where we couldn't win at home at all. And also we went through that under Peter Shreves as well in 92-93, where we couldn't win at home. I think we have to face facts. We could go down. I've already resigned myself. We could go down. There's no point in thinking we're in a battle for our lives here. We're in a Premier League battle for survival. And the one thing probably is going for us is our goal difference. All the rest of the teams around us are on minus goal difference. We're on 0. So even if you are picking up a couple of points here and there, your goal difference at the end of the day will save you if you finish level on points with the teams above you.
Didn't they get promoted out of the Championship that year, or the League One, whatever you call it, on goal difference?
What when Tottenham went down?
Yeah.
We came back. Yeah, we got promoted on the last day of the season by a single point. And it was the second division back in them days. We went away needing a point at Southampton, and Southampton nearly scored in the last minute. Somebody shot a ball, just went skimming over the top of the bar. Philip Brady tells me about it, and we did go up. But the point is, Dave, when we went down that season and the year under Aussie, and again when Jurgen Klinsmann was brought back into the team to save us from relegation as well, everyone was one. The players, the fans, everyone was fighting for the same. This is different. We've got a fractured fan base. We've got a fractured ownership. We've got a fractured team. The players are pointing the fingers at us. Porro needs to get his head out of his arse and realise he's playing for our club. And we have a right to criticise. And the players, can you see when Steve Perman got relegated, do you think he went out and blamed the fans? Or when Glenn Hoddle was in that relegation side of 77, do you think he went out and blamed the fans? No, he didn't. He blamed himself. He said he cried for 3 days straight because he was in the squad that got us relegated. So some of these players have to get their head out of their arse, realise who they're playing for, and they're playing for us. If we see on the pitch they're giving it their all and fighting, even if we lose, us fans will back that team to the hill. And this is why I think Romero is probably getting a bit of cult fever at Tottenham at the moment with what he's putting out in the press conference, the rights or wrongs of it. But I think he's one of the few that are fighting. Mickey van der Ven's giving it his all. Lucas Bergville, when he's playing, is giving it his all. You've got Solanke working hard. There's a few players within that squad care deeply about this football club. And I think we've all got to, tonight, we've got to park it all and get behind the team. And the team also got to give us something back. So it's a 50-50 fight. And whatever you think of Thomas Frank, I think Thomas Frank's the biggest hypocrite this side of the earth, because 1 minute he's praising everyone, next minute he's slagging us all off. Well, Thomas, get your tactics right, get your team selection right, stop messing around, stick with the formation, stick whatever you're doing, and get on with it. Your job is to make us secure in the Premier League. And look, if he goes, he goes. And if we lose tonight, I hope he's gone before Arsenal.
Well,
because I hope the board then have the balls to do something. And that's another thing. If we do go down, it won't get rid of the board. The board ain't going nowhere, because the board will not sell, because they won't get the value they want in the Championship. They will wait to get back into the Premier League and then sell it at its higher value. So anyone think us getting relegated is going to get the board gone? I think you need to give your head a wobble and have a think again, because that ain't going to happen. Sorry for the rant.
Fair.
Sorry.
Fair. Look, a lot of people enjoyed what you have to say. We'll take a few comments here from the chat and we will crack on. Alpesh says, evening, Dave and Jack, off to the lane. Big up to everyone going tonight. It's Tuesday. It's soggy wet out there. Just get that win over the line. Come on, you Spurs. Brilliant, Alpesh. I'm just trying to work out whether you're one of the loyal ones or one of the unloyal ones, according to Thomas Frank. I'm not quite sure, but honestly, I'm only joking around. You go and enjoy the game. Sing your heart out. Get behind the boys, and hopefully we deliver you a result today. Because if I'm correct, you've gone to nearly every home game this season. I think you've seen 2 wins in the Premier League so far at home this year. It's not good enough for the commitment you make. I mean, everybody, this is a guy that does night shift, often comes home, just gets a shower straight to the game. So hopefully his commitment is rewarded today. Big up, Alpesh. Good to see you in the building, sir. We've got Faz Radfar. Big up, my man. Good to see you in the building. Big up my favorite channel. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well, Fazzy, as always, my man. We've got AK Shags. Oh, I already got that one. Big up, AK Shags. We've got Martin Knightsbridge. Frank lagged the fans off and said not real fans and put a divide between him and us. Now he wants the fans to just come together now. He really needs us to help. He didn't care a few months ago. So I was saying a few months ago, it's a slippy slope to go down, because at some point you're going to need the backing of the fans, and you've already alienated a proportion of it by saying things you say. It was the same with Ange Postecoglou last year, and then they sit there and wonder then why they start losing the support of the fans as the seasons go on. When you start blaming fans who just pay to be there and pay to watch the games, and they don't have a say on transfer policy, training, tactics in games, performances, shit like that. I mean, it's just a dumb route to go down. It's just a deflection tactic. And then on top of that, then you see within the playing squad, they also think it's okay to come out and blame fans and stuff like that. I mean, it's a knock-on cycle. It's just a bad one to get into, and that's where, he lost a lot of fans, and I have no sympathy for him whatsoever. At the end of the day, Jose Conte, they never went after the fans. They protected the fans. Pochettino never went after the fans. They protected the fans. They always sit there and go, you deserve this, you deserve that. Not, coming out, you're the problem, this, that, and the other. Absolutely madness, and that's why he doesn't get sympathy. Stevie Fraser, we definitely could go down. I don't think we will personally, but nobody can say it's impossible. Look, I'm hoping not. I don't want to touch the Championship. I just have a real fear. If we go down, I know you probably disagree with this, Stevie. I just think we're going to be stuck down there longer than what people think we will, with the board. The constant wrong decisions. I just don't trust them to put the right people in place to bring in the right players to send us back up on that one, Stevie. But look, to be honest, I didn't even want to have these conversations this season again. But here we are, my man, unfortunately. But big up, Stevie. Good to see you in the building. Spotlight on Spurs. Whenever the players have shown the fans anything, the fans have responded well. I think you look at Dortmund, prime example, right? You look at Aston Villa when we came out in the second half, showed some fight. Man City in the second half when we came out and showed some fight. But this is where I don't think Frank helps himself. We've got to wait until the game is almost out of sight before we show anything. If you actually started games like that, then we wouldn't be in this situation. The toxicity around the ground wouldn't be happening, or within the fan base. So that's where my big annoyance comes in. Luke, good to see you in the building, though. Guys, make sure you do check out Luke's channel as well. Good to see you in the building, my man. We've got Alberto in the house. Hello there, Jack, Dave, Dermot, and Soren. Want to keep optimism, but Xavi is winding me up, and I hope he can smash the Geordies tonight 2-0. Big up all the kids. I think Xavi's starting to wind a lot of people up on the football pitch, my man. But unfortunately, I think it's similar to the Wilson Odegaard situation. You got to keep putting them out there. You got to keep letting them make mistakes, and I think there's more than enough talent eventually that this guy will come good and start producing regularly. I think it's the same situation, Alberto. Kieran, good to see you, my man. He says, hello, Dave and Jack and everyone. Will Dr. Tottenham be out in force tonight to help Newcastle change their poor form?
Please, no.
What was it? Burnley, 13 games. West Ham, 10. Bournemouth, 11. You know, and this is where I get worried. You know, people can look at the fixtures beyond this and go, we've got winnable games there. The only games that we've got left that we actually won was Crystal Palace. The rest, we haven't won any of them games, and that's where my concern comes in, Kieran. But hopefully we can get the job done tonight. I think if we can get the job done tonight, we'll have enough about us to avoid, being pulled directly into the scrap with a few games to go. Paul Brown, we're not Frank FC, Romero FC, even Balloon FC. They'll be out of here soon. THSC will hopefully still exist. Get behind the team, leave the booing at home, and just get behind our team. Absolutely fair comments there from Mr. Brown. We've also got Albert Betoa. I haven't forgotten about you, by the way. We will be running it from 7 o'clock tomorrow, and I am keen to get you on. I know you're a big fan of Frank, so come on and have your say with us tomorrow. We'll be live from 7 till about 8:30, 9 o'clock, so make sure you get in and come and have your say. We've also got Roz. It says, Dermo talking sense. I said it's rare Dermo gets a nice comment like that in the chat, so I said I'll bring it up.
It's very rare.
Feel good.
It's extremely rare.
I love it.
Sense, but that was a brilliant one.
We've got Lily White India. Really appreciate how you come up with so many engaging questions for these live streams, Dave. Not just me, Jack also comes up with them as well. It's not as easy as it sounds and takes time. Big up. Do you know what the hardest part is taking my own biased opinion out of things sometimes and phrasing the question in a fair manner and stuff like that. I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Tottenham Hotspur, even on the slowest of weeks, they will always give you something to talk about. That's the problem, Lily White India. But good to see you. And Sushant Basal says, good evening, everyone. Big up, boys, from Manhattan. My G, David, and Jack, all the panel, big up. Good to see you in here. Sushant, good to see you, my man. Everybody keep getting your comments in. As you can see, I am trying to bring them up, but also feel free to smash that like button. And if you feel like you want to, throw us some of your support. If you want to, you can do that by putting in a super chat, your own question, whatever you want to get off your chest, or you can do it by a channel membership or gift them out if that's the way you see fit. But don't worry, we do understand it is hard times for everybody, so even just smashing that like would help us out greatly. Look, let's keep it moving. I mean, look, guys, I don't make these stats up, so I don't want anyone to kill me. These are just the cold, hard numbers of what we're seeing right now under Thomas Frank. Like it or leave it, get upset by it, offended by it, that's on you, but these are the stats. If Spurs don't win tonight, it becomes 17 Premier League games with just 2 wins. Winless in the Premier League in 2026. Thomas Frank's win percentage is now the worst of any Big Six manager in history, sitting on a win rate of just 28%. We are 15th in the table, 6 points above the relegation zone out early in both domestic cups. Now compare that to standards this club has previously set. Pochettino never finished outside the top 5, bar the season he got sacked. Reached multiple domestic cup semi-finals and a final and a Champions League final. Mourinho was also sacked in 7th, had Spurs in the League Cup final, wasn't allowed to take charge of it, sacked a few days beforehand. Nuno actually got sacked in 9th, and Conte was sacked in 4th after finishing 4th the season before. And Ange Postecoglou was also dismissed after winning the Europa League, reaching the Cup semi-final, although finishing in 17th. All of those managers were removed after achieving more than what Thomas Frank has so far, Jack. Yet Thomas Frank appears to be receiving far greater patience. With a 12-day break after tonight before the North London derby, if Spurs fail to take 3 points against Newcastle, do you think the club are in a position where they have to gamble and act now? Or do they stick with Thomas Frank until the end of the season and accept the risk that comes with that decision?
I struggle with it because I think they've had so many opportunities to have sacked him that at this stage, it does feel like a gamble. Whereas before, I always was saying it wasn't really a gamble. Like, all the stats that you've read aloud there, Thomas Frank could not be doing any worse. Like even that stat, which is probably the most damning, the worst top 6 manager in however long it's been, right? That's just an incredible stat. And it's incredible that people have even tried to somehow defend Thomas Frank in his time here. I think the only defense at all that you could put up, and it's not really for him, it's just for the decisions of the football club, is have you truly missed all of your chances of bringing in an interim manager or a new manager for the rest of the season? I'm debating over that. I'm really struggling with it personally. I don't see how Thomas Frank could be doing much worse. So maybe you might as well just bring in an interim manager because, the bar is already so damn low. But maybe the fact that he has, in a sense, battled through, his times at Brentford of trying to keep them in the league, establish them. He's been in, I think, one relegation battle before with Brentford. I don't know if he does have the know-how, but technically he does have some experience in finding a way to stay up in games like that. So I'm struggling with it. I just think Spurs had an opportunity, I think, in November to get rid and just move on. They had an opportunity in December to do it. And January was the most glaring opportunity to do it. The guy had if he just picked up 2 wins in January against the easiest of teams in the league, we would not be in the position that we find ourselves now. So I don't think Thomas Frank could be doing much worse. I just am struggling with the frustration, Dave, that they've had so many glaring chances and opportunities to have sacked him originally and brought in someone else. But I'm going to say if he loses tonight and he loses tonight badly, I think you do pull the trigger, to be honest. And I think you do look to bring someone in. It's just the struggle is that maybe we haven't necessarily been getting walloped by anybody. All the games have been relatively close. I wouldn't really even say the performances have been that great, but it's not like we're just getting beat 4-0, 5-0, that it's glaringly obvious that the players are giving up on him or giving up on each other. So that's maybe the struggle with it. But yeah, if he loses tonight and he loses tonight badly, you could make the case the next interim manager, how could he do any worse than what Thomas Frank has been doing?
Yeah, 100%. So we I sort of agree with that. And we've got your opinion then on what you would do over the 12-day gap if we don't win tonight. But also, I read out other, positions where other managers have been sacked in the previous standard at this football club and what they've been sacked on and positions they've been sacked in despite achieving far more than what Thomas Frank has. Why do you think Thomas Frank has been given maybe a lot more patience? Because I'd argue if Jose was on this run, he would have been sacked after 8 games. Conte, same, and other managers. So why is Thomas Frank getting more patience? Pochettino brought us to a Champions League final. They sacked him the following season. So why is Frank getting more patience than a lot of these other guys have been shown?
I think it's 2-part. I think Daniel Levy is gone. Daniel Levy clearly had no issue with sacking a manager. He was able to pull the trigger when he felt like he needed to, whether it was right or wrong. He had the balls to be able to do that and sack a guy, even his own friend in Pochettino, right? When Pochettino was under pressure and when Pochettino wasn't picking up results, Levy had the balls to put aside that friendship and that relationship and bring in someone like Jose Mourinho, which felt like a huge move, to be fair, at the time. And I think the other part of it is the fact that the Lewis family, or Enoch 2.0, whatever you want to call them, they've never had to make real footballing decisions in the past. They've never had to be in this position where no decision is easy. There's no right option. There's no, easy choice really. And they don't have either the willpower or the strength or the confidence to be able to make those tough decisions, even though that they are reaping the benefits and the money and the revenue of being the owners of this football club. It seems like they don't want to actually make the decisions that owners of a football club have to make. They just want to sort of ride along, hope that everything just sort of takes care of itself, really. So I think it's a 2-part. I think you have very incompetent owners that don't want to make difficult decisions. And then we had a guy, whether you liked him or loved him or hated him, and Daniel Levy. Daniel Levy at least did have the balls to sack a guy when he felt like he needed to.
I do believe half the reason why Frank has maybe given more of a chance than anybody than maybe the likes of a Jose or Conte, for instance, in terms of more rope, to try and get things right. I truly believe it's because Conte and Jose came in and sort of said, if I don't win something, sack me. These are the expectations I'm placing on myself. This is the expectations I'm playing on everybody. And, because of our desperation to get over the line and win a trophy, when it didn't happen within, a season and a half, or it looked like it wasn't going to happen, fans sort of started getting irate. Whereas I think Thomas Frank came in and played up the job in terms of, the big task it was going to be. I guarantee you were going to lose games. He almost painted himself as the underdog walking in here. And as Spurs, anytime we go into big games, big finals, we're the underdog. So naturally, you're going to root for the underdog when you see it. And I think that's why Thomas Frank has been given a lot more of a pass than anybody else, because, he's painted himself to be an underdog and this job to be absolutely huge, whereas others walked in and said, hang on, This club should be winning trophies, and they almost place that pressure and expectation on themselves. And that's why I truly believe Frank has been given more of a chance than anybody else. But also, I'm at the point, I don't think if we don't win tonight, you can't go with 2 wins in 17 games and sit there and go, everything's going to be all right. At some point, you have to take the gamble, bring in a fresh voice, fresh ideas, fresh tactics, and give it a go. It's not beyond the realms of impossibility that can work. I think the club might have left it a little bit too late, in my opinion. I think West Ham would have been ideal.
100%.
Maybe back in November, December would have been ideal. But, like, there's nothing to say that this guy is garnering enough points to be able to pull us out of it if you give him the rest of the season. That's why I'm very hesitant to keep him in the job at some point. I do think this club is going to have to take a gamble if we don't win tonight. And, you know, I think if we don't win tonight, you've 12 days between now and the North London Derby. You give the interim a chance to come in, be able to set your stall out, you know, implement what he wants to try and do, and put in a good game plan for the North London Derby. You look at what Man United had done with Michael Carrick. You walked in here in less than an ideal situation a couple of days before Man City, your biggest game of the season, then Arsenal. They haven't looked back. They're winning games left, right, and centre. All of a sudden, all the talk about their squad being average, crap, this, that, and the other, it's all disappeared. Now everyone's talking about how great they are. You know, you look at Chelsea. You know, they got rid of Maresca. They brought in this guy, you know, Rosiner, doing a decent job so far, you know, so it's not beyond the realms of impossibility that if we can find the right intern that this can work. So I would be more than happy to make a change. I have no loyalties to Thomas Frank. I didn't back myself into the corner of backing this guy to the very end either. I sat there amongst it not being popular, gave my reservations around this guy, and I just don't see what if we don't win tonight, what keep him in the job is going to do. Everything is telling us we're heading this way. I've been warning about this since the first international break of the season. You know, I've been asking for people, give me at least a stat that's in the green that if we hammer behind, we're going to get out of this, and no one can give it to me. So for me, I would make the change personally if we don't win tonight. I mean, Dermo, where are you at with this? And we'll also get Soren in.
Look, I think I have to agree with everything both of you have said above. I don't think there's any disagreement with that. I think, look, from my own perspective, for what, I mean, Dave, I know you don't believe any of this, so I'm expecting a little bit of rebuttal from you and Soren. So I am big enough.
I'm going to bite my tongue today. I'm not picking arguments, Dermo. I'm just going to let you speak.
No, I know you don't believe the people I use, and it's fair enough. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. Everyone's entitled to how they believe. I believe in them, and I believe in what I do. So I'm not here to please people. I'm here to give people the news.
Of course.
I mean, for what I've been told, look, there has been indication that Tottenham Hotspur are now at a critical point regarding Thomas Frank. Frank is still in the post, but he's extremely on borrowed time. Internal conversations have moved from monitoring to preparing. Another poor league result could trigger an immediate action, which means tonight, if we lose tonight, he could go. Shortlist discussion for success already underway, with both interim and permanent options quietly explored. And this is the bit that gets me. The hierarchy is split. Some want stability, other believes the situation is already beyond repair. And it sort of goes on to Jack's point about Daniel Levy. He had the balls to sack a manager. He had the balls to make a decision, rightly or wrongly. It needs to be made, and it needs to be made now. And I think Tottenham have backed themselves into a corner now where they've missed so many opportunities of sacking a manager. And if they're just waiting for Poch to come back, if that's their plan, well, we'll wait to the end of the season. And if they're in the board think, oh no, we're not going to go down, we'll wait for Poch in the summer. That is a very deluded and dangerous game you're playing. Because if you don't act now, if the board don't act with Thomas Frank now, and he doesn't win tonight, then you need to make a change. You'll get a sort of new manager or a new interim manager bounce. You'll get a manager, somebody come in with different ideas. And I just think the Tottenham board are playing a dangerous game of roulette here. They're sort of they're at the poker table. They've got a 15, do I stick, or a 17, do I stick or do I twist? And I think it's a very dangerous game they're playing. Thomas Frank shouldn't have been sacked in November after the Arsenal game, in my opinion. I think that was it for me back then. And then we've gone down the route we did last season with Ange. Every game, is this the game defeat? Is this the game where he's going to get the sack? Is this the game where the board are going to make a change? And lastly, before I shut up, I think the board have this mentality now that the Champions League or Europe is more important than the Premier League. and they're quite happy to go in the Premier League because they're in the Champions League. Look what happened last year. We won the Europa League. And I think some of the board that are around then thinking, oh, we can do the same thing here. It worked for Daniel, might work for us. Well, it ain't going to work for us because we ain't going to win the Champions League. I think we'll get to the quarterfinals. That'd be it. So the board need to take the head up their ass. They need to take the head out the clouds, and somebody needs to do something because at the moment, this club is rudderless. There is nobody knows what they're doing. Nobody wants to take a decision. Vinay's hiding. Vinay's doing his Arsenal thing, all stick by the manager. Johan Lang couldn't organise a piss up in a brewery. You got Viv, Charlie, and Charrington all probably having a big comfort. How much is Daddy Lewis going to make today? And nobody cares about the football club. Well, park all your bloody self-interest and think about the club for once. Make a decision. Make it now. If you don't make it now, it's going to be too late. And when you do make it, then we're going to be in so much shit, then we might not be able to get out of it.
Yeah. Well, what concerns me is when, it was Paul O'Keefe on Last Word on Spurs or mentioned that, they're afraid to make the change because they're afraid to go down the interim route. So it's not like they're keeping him because they believe in the guy.
Yeah.
And that's what concerns me. If they came out and said, look, we fully believe in the guy, that's why I think, there wouldn't be as much panic around the situation. But off the back of that report, I think it's opened up panic everywhere because it just seems like no one knows what they're doing. I'd also argue, I think, if they can't get the stadium right, I also think, bringing in an intern between now and the end of the season might rejuvenate some of the atmosphere within the stadium, freshen up, and, fans will get behind the new guy. And, between now and the end of the season. Now, of course, I do want to say, although I just don't believe Thomas Frank is right for Tottenham Hotspur, of course, it's not all on Thomas Frank, and I just want to make that clear. The board have to take a large slice of this pie. They have cocked it up. Johan Lang, Vinay, cocked it up. But Frank isn't helping the situation either. I think he is making it worse, and he's also not right for the job. So I do think he has to go at some point as well. But it's not all on Thomas Frank. There does have to be other stuff. We have to go after the board after to fix internally. That will give everybody a proper chance to succeed moving forward. Sorry, we'll get your opinion on it, and then we've got a couple of chats to get to. So what's your opinion on the whole team? Keep Frank to the end of the season, or if we lose tonight, make a change before North London Derby?
Well, first of all, I want to have a little go at Dermo. I think you were doing so well then, and then you said we weren't going to win the Champions League. Man, what is going on? You're
being honest.
Did the ship.
I have, because you rammed it into an iceberg and we're sinking. You think I'm that daft sitting on a sinking ship? You can sit in it alone, mate. I'm off.
Do you know, I've agreed with virtually everything you've said, and then you just blew it with that one sentence.
Basuma, please take them balloons quickly. I beg you.
No, but look, I want to go down. I was about to say something, and Dave just sort of pictured me to it. I don't think we can blame Frank with this. He wasn't good enough in the first place to take over and do what this club supposedly wanted us to do and compete on all four. He hasn't got the experience. He hasn't got the knowledge. And if anybody is to blame for this absolute shit show of a club that we are now, it is the Lewis family.
Yeah.
Full stop. It cannot go any further than them. We all, well, I say we all, a lot of people blamed Daniel Levy. Oh, he's cocked up the sale of the club. He's cocked up this. He's cocked up that. Well, look at it. The club, the Lewis family don't want to sell. Well, it's funny how Daniel Levy's wanting to sell his shares. We can't get rid of a manager that we should have never actually employed in the first place. And it is an absolute shit show. This club was obviously one level above Thomas Frank. I think he's a decent manager for the right club in the right situation. It is not Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah,
this
100%.
mess is absolutely down to Enoch and the Lewis family.
Yeah.
And anybody who wants to blame anybody else, then for me, you're wrong. It is purely down to them. Once again, they have employed the wrong manager in this club. We go on about Conte. Conte was the wrong manager for this club at the time. You do not employ a manager like Conte if you're not going to fully back him and chuck all the money he needs for the players he wants. There is no point bringing in a manager like Thomas Frank, who we know is quite a defensive type manager, and he'll try to eke out a 1 or a 2-0 win, whatever it's going to be, for a club that expects front foot attacking football. Wrong manager, wrong time, yet again. Absolute balls up of a decision made. I would love to know what they were looking for in a manager when they employed Thomas Frank. Now, the only way we go forward now, I don't actually see him sacking Thomas Frank till the end of the season, because one, I don't think they've got the balls, and two, I wouldn't trust this bloody board management system or whatever to actually get the right interim manager in if we did sack him, because who are they going to bring in? You know, there is nobody glaring to bring in, and they'll probably go and get somebody like, I don't know, you know, another manager that once again will be the total opposite style of football to what Thomas Frank is, with a set of players that are absolutely devoid of any confidence whatsoever, and just cock it up. So I'm at the stage now where I don't know whether it's best to keep Thomas Frank and hope he keeps us up, or whether you go out and trust this board to actually make a right decision and get somebody in as a short term, which once again, you look at it and think, what's the point? Unless they are guaranteed to get the right manager in the summer, which again, I wouldn't surprise, you know, Pochettino could probably sat there absolutely begging to come, and they'd still trying to get him in. So I honestly don't know what the answer is with this club, other than, and those thinking that if we get relegated, we'll get rid of the board. No, we won't, because nobody will frigging buy the club until we get back into the Premiership, unless it's absolutely rock bottom and they're that desperate to sell, which again, they'd probably cock up the bloody sale of it anyway.
Just on a couple of things you were saying there, Soren, I think, you know, the fact that everyone is, I think unanimously, a lot of people be in agreement, Frank won't be here beyond the summer. So they agree he's not the right guy. So for me, why prolong it? Why not just make the change? If the evidence is showing you he's not going to change, it's not going to change under him, you got to make the change sooner rather than later. A second thing as well, and this isn't you, by the way, I hear this all the time, but we haven't given Frank everybody he wants. No manager in world football gets that. No manager. You got to come in and you got to earn the right. Frank hasn't earned that right to get what he wants. I'm sorry, he just hasn't. You know, yeah. At the end of the day, you know, Guardiola didn't walk into Man City and was given everything he wanted. Yeah, he spent 150 million on fullbacks that season, but the rest he had to implement over time. But he earned the right. He earned the money. You know what I mean? Yeah. No manager's going to walk into Tottenham. We're going to go, right, we're going to sell all 25 players. We're going to bring in 20 new 5 players that you want. It's just never going to happen. You have to earn the right as a manager. And Frank has failed in that regard. And I just think that's a bit of a flawed analysis, you know, when it comes from fans. You got to give him everything he needs. Like, no, he's got to work largely for the first season with what he's got, get the best out of it. And over time, you know, in more transfers, you will start getting it more to your liking. But if a manager comes in and he's failing, we can't give him that excuse that we haven't given him everything he wants. Okay, granted, we didn't help him in January the way we should have. We should have went after with more gusto. I feel sorry for him in that regard, because to a certain degree, they are throwing the guy under the bus. They are throwing him out to the wolves by doing that. But at the same time, he hasn't earned the right to be here beyond the summer and give him more money and throw it at him and stuff like that. It has to be 50-50 in that regard.
This is what I'm saying, you know, where people are saying, yeah, Conte was a winner and all this lot. Yes, but he's the wrong manager for this club. You don't bring a manager in like a Conte who, and then not actually give him what he needed to do the job that we, you know, everybody knows that if Conte comes in, he's going to need this player, this player, this player, this player. But we didn't do that. The same with Thomas Frank. The same with Ange, in a sense that you bring him in and you give them certain players, but not the right players. And we've done it again with Thomas Frank. These probably aren't the right players for him. And he's probably just come in and said, yeah, I can work with these, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, you know, somebody sort of said, bring Glenn Hoddle in. And look, Glenn Hoddle is a great name, but he's been out of football management for such a long time. Could it work? I don't know. And we talk about
Bring
a new
Soren in.
manager bounce.
Put
Yeah,
Soren in the job with Jack and David's assistants. There you go. There's the saviours for Tottenham Hotspur.
No, you guys brought me out.
well,
you know,
I would have had you,
no,
Dermo, but as soon as you're telling us we're not going to win anything this season, then you're no good to us now, are you?
No, I've just got sacked from the PR department. I have.
But Dermo,
Well, no,
I do believe.
The thing is, like I say, do you actually honestly trust the board if they got rid of Thomas Frank after tonight's game to actually get the right interim manager in?
I don't, but I think we no point. At some point, you have to take the gamble. You can't sit there and go.
Can't do much worse.
17 games is
well, exactly.
is
Yeah,
enough.
I mean, it can't be much worse.
Point.
But
Can anyone really do much worse? I'm pretty sure an interim. I'm pretty sure Mason has come in an interim and got more than 2 wins in 17 games. Do you know what I mean?
thing is, I mean, I look at it and you just look at it and you think, it wouldn't surprise me if they went out and, I mean, I know they won't do this and sort of said, oh, look, Mason's done a good job. Let's bring him back in. He knows the club. And I mean, Mason's a lovely bloke, you know, and again, it's not the right person. You actually need somebody to come in. I mean, as daft as it sounds, it's almost the Sam Allardyce type job now, isn't it? That's where we're actually at. You're looking at these managers that know how to do a relegation fight. And I just don't trust the board to look at it and think, right, yeah, we actually need to do it tonight.
I get that.
And you know, we're going to go and get so-and-so tomorrow. I mean, where Dermo's just said, you know, that they're looking at possibly getting rid of him if he doesn't do well or whatever. I'm sorry, but as a club, that should already be in place. You know, we should have been looking at possibilities months ago. Even if we don't do it till after Arsenal say, it should already have an idea of who we could get in if we need to get to that stage. But our club will be thinking, right, yeah, Tom, we've lost, say we lose 3-0 tonight to Newcastle. Oh, we better start, you know, sack him, and then we'll start looking at who we want.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the problem with this club. And, you know, we've gone into January transfer window and they're saying, oh, yeah, we tried to get Semenyo, but he didn't come. You should have already had your second and third choices in place before you actually got turned down by him. And that is the problem with this club, with this board. It's not necessarily the manager's fault, because this board has employed the wrong manager once again to come in and take over the club from what is necessarily our most successful manager in the last 20 years. You've got rid of him. I'm not saying he was the right manager, but you've got rid of him, and they've employed somebody who wasn't at the standard to take over this club.
Yeah. No, look, I think, you know, you said a lot of things there that I think a lot of people would agree with. And I sort of do see where you're coming from in terms of you don't trust the board to already have the interim lined up and ready to go and give him a chance and, you know, to get his feet on the table and stuff. I do understand that. I do understand the point. I'd rather just take the gamble at this point. You know, I'd rather go into the unknown than what I already know. And what I already know and what I'm already seeing is ringing alarm bells. But Dermo, we will let you go. You know, I know you have to head off, so we'll tell people what's coming up.
Yeah, sorry, I've just got. I'm seen to be double booked every match day, so I try to do my bit on here, then do a bit on we're Tottenham TV. So I'm trying to keep everyone happy. Yeah, we've got a lot coming up on the channel. We got the watch along tonight. After the whistle, the play ratings tomorrow as well, and then I'm off for a few days. Mrs. Tron's taking me away for a late birthday gift, so I'm going away back on Friday, and then back with all the build up then for the Arsenal game next week. Yeah, and we've really had a big growth at the moment. We're growing. We're really getting some good numbers, and we're halfway there. I think we're nearly 400 and something away from 3K. So we'd love to get there before the end of the season. So, but thank you guys. I always say this is the mothership for my channel. You guys give me the support, the encouragement, and being there in the dark times and the good times. So yeah, please like and subscribe here as well, and just drink Soren's whiskey, because I'm sure he would love everyone to do that. But yeah, I'm going to bounce out, and I'll see you for the pre-match. No, I want to see you for the pre-match because I'm hosting on We Are Tottenham TV, so I'm really nervous about that one. But yeah, I see you guys very soon when you invite me back to annoy you a bit more, which I love.
Enjoy, Dermo. Enjoy your dirty weekend as well, and we'll see you again soon.
Have a good one,
Yeah,
Tron.
I will do. On that
Have a good
bombshell.
one, man.
See you later. Yeah.
If you want updates on how Dermot gets on his dirty weekend, make sure you get across and subscribe to his channel. But look, we'll take a couple of chats here, and then I've got one more question that I want to throw to Jack quickly, and then I want to use Beto Super Chat to get on to the next conversation that I already have planned. Moondog says, win for us tonight, 2-1. Come on, you Spurs. I really hope so, Moondog. I think it would lift a lot of pressure off the Spurs fans, for a couple of weeks. So we really need that win tonight. And look, like I said, Newcastle only won two away games in the Premier League this season, lost their last 3 games heading into this. It's not insurmountable, and hopefully we can turn up tonight, Moondog. Sneaky fire on it. Do let me know in the chat, though, if you've got one on it, my man. By the way, are you picking as a first goal scorer now, or goal guy to score now that Brendan Johnson's been sold? Let me know, Moondog. We've got Paul Brown. Good to see you, buddy. Says glass remains half full until the bitter end. I'm trying my best. Paul Brown, but I'm one of them. I sort of tend to live in reality and, stuff like that. But of course, I'll always hope and stuff. But sometimes I fear the worst when it comes to this football club, because I know the club I support. I know what our owners are like and stuff like that. And, every step of the way, selling Harry Kane and, sacking the likes of Jose and Conte when maybe we should have stuck by them and stuff like that. Sort of warned of the disasters and the consequences of each of them, and we're just sleepwalking into this relegation, and it's just sad where we are right now, Paul Brown. But even though I might not be maybe glass half full, what I will say is I'm certainly going to be in the fight until the end, my man. Big up, Paul Brown. Good to see you in the building. Leighton Evelyn says, Soren, come on, stop talking about Champions League. This is what he's talking about. We're in a relegation battle, mate. AK Sheg says, okay, don't blame him. Sack him. I think that's absolutely fair. We've got Betoa says he's not a general contractor at all. He can't be expected to rebuild a building. He's just a manager. Can't fix the larger issues. Absolutely spot on. I think that's why even when he goes, we need to sort of continue on after the board. Kev Williams says, come on, you Spurs. We need this win tonight. Absolutely spot on, my man. We need one tonight, my man. Big time. A fast 4-0 Spurs. Forgive Frank if beat Arsenal and stay up. Big up. No. I'm not going to applaud a guy for keeping us above relegation after dragging us down into it. I'm just not going to do it. At the end of the day, I didn't think he was the right appointment in the first place. I thought it was a very unambitious appointment. I didn't rate the style of play either. I thought it would be big problems at Tottenham Hotspur. I don't like what he says. The fact that he walked in and says, I guarantee you we're going to lose games. I'm not on that. It doesn't inspire me. I don't think it's clear he doesn't inspire the collective with inside Tottenham. If he did, he probably would have got a couple more transfers, might have even, got a few more results along the way. So for me, regardless, this guy has to go. If not, after this game tonight, if we lose at the end of the season, he has to go. He has come in and lowered the standards of this football club, and he's dragged us down to Brentford's level, if not worse, and I'm not having it. He's got to go regardless on that one. However, for 24 hours, if we beat Arsenal, I will thoroughly enjoy it, because I think if we do them, we derail their charge towards the title, in my opinion, my man. And I think, because if we beat them, everyone starts talking about their mentality, their bottle, the pressure from the media, everything starts coming in. And even if them players don't crumble, Mikel Arteta has a history of doing stuff out of the ordinary that helps them crumble along the way. So we just need to beat them and put the pressure on them, Faz.
Just say with that one as well, Dave, I agree with Faz there. If we beat Arsenal and derail them and stop them winning the title and we stay up, then I'll forgive Frank, but he still needs to go. It's as simple as that. But it will be great if we can sit there and say, if Arsenal lose the Premiership, say, by 1 point or 2 points, and we were one of the teams that beat them towards the end, we'll take all the glory. I don't care. But whatever happens at the end of this season, Thomas Frank, unless we win the Champions League, I'll put that caveat in. He has to go. He has to go.
Good question, Faz. Good question.
Go, Faz. Stirring the pot, Faz. I like it, my man. Jack, just before I get on to Betoa's generous super chat here, because I do want to use it because it is a talking point that I was naturally going to progress to next. Just to round off the manager and the board sort of conversation, at what point does patience become negligence especially when you're hovering just above the relegation zone.
Yeah, like that's where I've been at, where it's kind of connected to the how can you do much worse really as a manager, and like why is it that people are just saying, oh, like just be patient, like things will turn around. It's like, yeah, but are you then ignoring the fact that he is at this moment in time the worst top six manager, which is, I mean, such a damning stat. Never even heard that one. I'd heard of the other ones that you had in your list there. Are you ignoring the fact that we are, after what was labeled as an inexcusable season, finishing 17th in the league, that he's now doing worse off than even Ange Postecoglou was at this point in time?
Yeah.
Are we going to ignore all these other damning statistics about how bad it's been under Frank, whether it's the lack of progressive passes, just, the fact that we aren't even really keeping goals out of our net anymore? I think we're starting to concede at a pretty regular rate. We don't score at a regular rate. Our goal difference is at 0 at the minute too, which is kind of pretty much like what you would expect from a team that's in and around 15th, 16th, 17th. There's so many stats to suggest that Frank is clearly not doing a good enough job, or he's just not getting the most out of what he has available to him. If you're just saying patience, 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 I think that is also a bit of negligence or ignorance towards the situation that you're in. And it's tough, right? I mean, I can see why people might want to say patience, because you don't want to maybe acknowledge or accept the really sad and dire situation that we're in. It'd be nice just to hope and assume that things will just get better, that we'll get out of this rut. But sometimes you do just have to sort of face the facts and look at the situation that you're in, and that it has been terrible. We are shit right now. Nothing is going well for Spurs at this moment in time. You have to figure out a way to have that conversation. And I agree with you, Dave. I do feel like the patience arguments, maybe as time has progressed, because we were told about patience in November, December.
Yeah.
Maybe that was a more of a relevant argument at the time. January after January, I didn't think it was really a worthwhile conversation. I think that was the time to pull the trigger. I didn't think patience meant anything anymore. If you're preaching patience now for Thomas Frank, I would say it is more negligence and ignorance to the situation that we have found ourselves and that he has put himself in. Yes, of course, the board play a part. Yes, of course, the injuries play a part. To be honest, though, that wasn't as much of an excuse, though, for Ange last season. And Thomas Frank, like I've said a million times, he literally could not be doing worse. So, it is negligence at this stage.
Yeah. I think it is starting to turn into negligence for sure. But Thomas says, and by the way, I'm going to spend about 10 minutes maybe on this next topic, because I do want to maybe talk a bit about tactics quickly before the lineup comes out. But Batoa says, we are in different times. He hasn't inherited a team. We can't say that is great. 4 signings. We have back our team now more than ever. Come on, you Spurs. And look, I do agree with you that, I said this earlier on in the show, Batoa, I think at some point, as fans, we do have to park the frustration and sort of try and be that 12th man just to lift this as a margin of convenience till the end of the season. Because I don't want to be one of them clubs that go down where the stadium's half empty and there's no fight within anybody and it's almost like resigned to it. I don't want to be that club. So I do agree with that. And look, I agree. I get, people say Frank hasn't inherited a great team, which is something, the next side of the argument, that may be counter argument to keep Frank in the job, which I'm going to sort of press Jack on a little here. But realistically, right, let's be brutally honest. With Thomas Frank, we have given him Batoa, coaching team that we didn't give other managers before. We gave him 4 players of a certain quality with so much experience under their belt that we didn't give managers before him. So we gave him a better opportunity to get up and running and put results on the board. And he's failed. He's also done bizarre things like take Papa Matasar out of the team, even though he performed well. How many times did he drop Udabar after performing well? He took Paulini out of the team for a run of 6-7 games for no reason whatsoever. Yeah. You play well under this guy, he drops you. And that's where my concern comes in around it. I'm not going to give this guy the excuse of injuries. I'm not going to, don't get me wrong, it plays a part, in terms of maybe why we shouldn't be competing for European football with the amount of injuries and stuff. But every other manager at Tottenham has to deal with this. Everyone talks about, it was only Ange Postecoglou that also had an injury crisis. Go back and look at Conte's tenure for a good solid month. He had academy kids on the bench.
Yeah.
He gave someone like George Abbott his debut and stuff like that because of injuries. Every manager has to deal with it. And I think we're making too many excuses for this guy. At the end of the day, it's never going to be a perfectly ideal situation for any manager walking into a football club, especially at Tottenham Hotspur, which is what you make of it. And good managers can find solutions, find ways around the problems. This guy has failed at every turn and every opportunity. But to be fair to, Batoa's sort of super chat here and the other side of the argument, Jack, because I'm sure there's people at home screaming, talk about the squad. So I'm going to put this to you, and I also want to get Soren's thoughts. But like I said, if we can sort of wrap this up within 10 minutes, this would be brilliant because time is getting away from me here. When he decided to sack the previous manager, right, their reasoning was clear. And this is what they said in the statement. It is crucial that we are able to compete on multiple fronts and believe a change in approach will give us the strongest chance for the coming season and beyond. And that we have a talented young squad and Andrew's given us a great platform to build on. Now, anyone that thinks I'm talking bullshit, go and get the statement, go and read it yourself. So, Jack, let's explore the other side of this debate. Then some fans believe that Thomas Frank isn't actually the biggest problem and that the bigger issue is the squad itself, a group that simply is not good enough, especially when you factor in the injury crisis that stripped the team down to bare bones. So let's say if the club do make a change, if we brought in an intern tomorrow, would it actually change anything? Or is the squad simply not good enough to stay up? And I also would, put to you, are we overestimating the talent of this group based on past reputations rather than current performances at Tottenham Hotspur?
I think when it comes to the squad not being good enough to stay up, I'm pretty sure I didn't hear any single Spurs fan on any platform making that argument in the beginning of the season that this squad is so bad, like that we have a risk of potentially being in a relegation dogfight. I think now all of a sudden people have kind of changed their script and changed their narrative and now have suggested that, oh my God, these players are so terrible. You know, we might actually get relegated because they're so bad. I don't remember anybody saying that at the beginning of this season. So clearly their expectations was that Thomas Frank was going to get the most out of this squad. Whether you even thought the squad was good enough to begin with is a different story because no one was having the conversations of us finishing this low in the league. No one rated the squad this badly. People are saying he'll get a tune out of Dragic. People are saying he'll get a tune out of Bergvall, Archie Gray,
Johnson.
These sort of types of players, right? But now all of a sudden, these players, I guess, aren't good enough for whatever reason. So it just seems like the script has slightly changed on that. And to be honest as well, do we really think that this squad is somehow worse than, I don't know, Crystal Palace's, Bournemouth's, Fulham's, Sunderland's, Everton's, Brentford's, teams that are all performing much better on us? We're now level on points with Leeds United as well. Do we really think our team is somehow worse than Leeds United's? You know, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, a guy that could never score a goal to save his life, all of a sudden now with maybe a manager that's figured things out, has been able to get him to sort of turn a new leaf. Just seems like Thomas Frank, in my opinion, is not getting the most out of that talented young squad that the board labeled it as. I think if we were sitting around, let's say 8th or 9th in the table, maybe even 10th, you could absolutely make the case of like, you know what, maybe the squad needs a little bit more quality. Maybe it needs more players here and there to crack into where Chelsea are, Aston Villa are, Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool. Like you could make that argument. You know what, maybe we're not at that level yet. We need more players of that quality to compete with those teams. Like Thomas Frank can only do too much. But the fact that we're sitting below all these other teams that, in my opinion, especially Fulham, I think, and Sunderland and Everton being prime examples, the fact that they're 5, 6 points, 7 points ahead of us and have had a far better season throughout this campaign than us, those squads do not have better squads. To say that those teams have fewer problems than Tottenham Hotspur, you'd be lying to yourself. Like Marco Silva has been complaining about his squad for years at Fulham. You would say even this year. Everton fans, like when, you know, the likes of David Moyes was brought in, they probably would have sacked every single player in that, you know, Everton squad. They probably felt like none of the players were good enough with what they needed in order to be challenging. Now they're sitting 8th. Managers at the end of the day are paid to get the most out of what they're given. They're paid to make make good out of a bad situation sometimes. Thomas Frank at the end of the day is not getting the most out of what he has available to him. And like you said, you could point to a lot of times when he has had players playing well for him, players that are maybe turning, you know, a bit of form, and then he takes them out of the team. That is a manager's decision, and it's come back to hurt him. He's not making the right decisions. He's not getting the most out of his players. He's also not even delivering on what they were saying, which was like, what was it? A change of style or a change of play that they said would be sustainable, you know, for competing in all competitions. We haven't been competing in all competitions. He's done his very best to knock us out of all the competitions. He's trying to knock us out of the Premier League right now at this point. So, I mean, Thomas Frank, at the end of the day, I feel like the squad conversation, I think, is only relevant if we were sitting around 8th or 9th or 10th and we're kind of feeling like, you know what, I don't think we have enough, you know, to compete for Europa League or Champions League spots. Like he needs more. Absolutely be willing to have that conversation. I'm not willing to have the conversation that this squad is bad enough to get relegated. I don't think anyone was saying that at the beginning of the season.
I agree. I think even if you look at the signings we brought in, which people moan about, before we got Conor Gallagher this season, how many people were screaming for him in previous windows when we were linked with him? When we brought in Xavi Simons this summer, I heard lots of Spurs fans across multiple platforms screaming for this guy's signature. Colin Mawani, who everyone says is shit now, how many people were screaming for him last January over Matisse Tel?
Yeah.
You know, so like, you know, I do sort of agree with what you're saying in terms of, because of where we are right now, you know, all of a sudden this squad is down to this standard. At what point can you not, like, at what point do you look at it and go, well, the tactics, you know, whatever he's doing is just not getting the best out of the group? And there's also a massive case to be argued there on that side, in my opinion. You know, and when you look at it, Conte, Jose, Postecoglou,
That's the point.
you know, Pochettino, none of them had a perfect squad full of strength and depth and stuff like that. But they got much better out of it, and they took us on much better journeys.
That's the point as well. Is like Conte, at the end of the day, people were saying, oh, well, he needed more, you know, like we needed to give him more in order for him to succeed. At the end of the day, he made the best of whatever situation he had with squad. You have Clement Longley, you had Emerson Royale, you had Matt Doherty, Ryan Sessignones of the world, the Harry Winkses of the world, the Tanguy and Dumbeles, all these players that were all misfits at the club. He still had them challenging for fourth in the league. Like, he needed more in order to actually win trophies probably at the club.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he still made the best of a bad situation. He still made the best of the cards available. There are even people that say the line of Harry Kane and Son papered over the cracks. 100% true. But you can't say that Van de Ven, Romero, Paulinho, they're papering over the cracks right now for Thomas Frank. Romero has saved Thomas Frank's job multiple times this season. Van de Ven has saved his job multiple times this season. Paulinho has saved his job with 3-4 bicycle kicks already this season to try to save him from a bad result. So to say that Thomas Frank right now doesn't have players in his team that are papering over the cracks, you'd be disingenuous. You would be, if anything, you know, saying that Romero and Van de Ven and Paulinho aren't good players. So I just think he's been given far too many excuses. It's almost like the script has changed too many times for me to accept about the players in this squad.
No, I think that's a very, very fair point, Jack. You actually make a good point there about, you know, Romero, Van de Ven, and Paulinho sort of papering over the cracks with Thomas Frank. Absolutely great point. Soren, where do you land on this whole squad debate? Because look, it's only fair if we're going to, you know, have one side of the argument. I suppose it's fair to sort of have the other side of the argument, you know. And I think it's only fair that I press Jack on it a little bit further. So I'll do the same to you.
I'm baffled when people tell me this squad isn't good enough. And look, you know, I mean, beginning of the season, I was the same as you in a sense. Mawani, absolutely over the moon. Xavi, over the moon. I think when you look at it, Mawani has been shit. I don't think there's any defence for him this season. Whether that's because he doesn't want to be here, whether that's because he doesn't believe in the manager, whether it's because he's not good enough, I don't know. But when we were linked to him, I was ecstatic he was coming. But, you know, if we'd have started at the beginning of the season, before we kicked a ball, and you look at the team sheet and the squad sheet, how can people say it wasn't good enough? It's maybe not good enough to win. I get that. It's maybe not good enough to be second or third, but it's certainly good enough to compete. And it was certainly good enough to not be in the position we're in now. Now, yes, we've had a lot of injuries, and, you know, I don't know what's going on with the injuries. Everybody wanted to blame Ange Postecoglou last season and the season before. And I mean, I've even seen somebody this season blaming it on him still, and been serious about it. But no, seriously,
you're taking the piss, man.
No, I'm not. Somebody in one of the group chats that we're all in, we're having an argument with it. But look, this squad is arguably better than where we are now. Full stop. There is no questioning. You know, we've got, I mean, I would argue we've got one of the best back fours, not the best, obviously, but certainly good enough to be probably top six. As a whole, I'm just baffled. And like you say, I mean, the first 4, 5, 6 games of the season, we actually looked pretty solid. We looked decent, and then he took Papsar out, and he just went bollocks. I don't know whether it was an argument, a falling out between them, because he certainly didn't deserve to be dropped. And I think that's a lot of the problem that these players don't believe that if they play well, that they'll keep the place. I think, you know, we argued last season we didn't see enough rotation. This season we've seen too much rotation. I just honestly think Thomas Frank has never been able to work out what his best 11 are and the right tactics for this team. And you know, yes, that's obviously Thomas Frank's fault because he is the manager. But once again, I go back to my last argument. It's not Thomas Frank's fault in the sense because he was the wrong manager to bring into the club. But yeah, this squad, I don't care what anybody tells me. When I look at the names on this, you know, as a squad, and we're talking if they're all fit, but it is certainly good enough to be top 8. Certainly good enough to be top 8, and I won't take it from anybody that it's not. Look, that said, with the injuries we've got right now, then I kind of get the fact that we're struggling, but we shouldn't have been in this position in the first place because we've virtually had our strongest back 5 available for most of the season, but yet we still can't keep a clean sheet hardly. You know, it's either the tactics.
You don't even have to make a top 8 argument, Soren. We are 5 points off of 11th Bournemouth. Like it's shocking. Like absolutely. You don't even need to make like a top 8 squad argument. Could any Spurs fans actually tell me that Fulham, Everton, Sunderland, Bournemouth have bet? Like Bournemouth sold half their squad this season and last season. Now they have a bunch of whole new players that he has to embed in Iraola. There's no one that could actually realistically make a case that somehow all those teams that are ahead of us right now, that are 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, that are 5, 6 points ahead of us right now, that they somehow have better squads than us. The one common factor is that they have better managers than what we have.
And look, to Rudolph Mayer's point, recent examples, Emery took over at Villa, took them to safety with the same players, then improved them. Glasner took over a failing Palace. Look what he got out of it, you know. Carrick now at Man United, you know. And look, it's not always the manager, Rudolph. You know, there are certain parts you like. I keep trying to highlight how important the actual director of football is in football clubs nowadays. I do encourage every fan to really go and look actually how important they are. I think a lot of them actually get away with a lot of scrutiny when they actually, a lot of it should go on them. The owners as well. But, you know, there's just managers that are good for big teams and managers that are good for smaller teams. And, you know, and I just think Thomas Frank is one of them. He's better for a smaller club. You know, he's just not right for Tottenham Hotspur. And I just think, you know, we give him too many excuses this season, you know. A lot of people want to talk about the players, but no one wants to talk about the tactics. You know, everyone wants to blame the players, but we're consistently getting much lower XGs than what we got last season. You know, we're 2 goals better off in terms of conceded than what we were last season. You know, everyone wanted the guy gone last season. This guy has done worse up to this point than last season. And it's just like, none of the arguments stack up. I'm not like no one sitting here at the start of the season saying this squad should be challenging for the Champions League, for the Premier League, and all cup competitions. But we all sort of lowered and said, look, regardless, if we get a cup run, great. But main objective, at least get a Europa Conference League spot. The fact that we're sitting here talking about 6 points above relegation, at what point do you have to start looking at the manager? Anyway,
okay.
I do. Go on.
Just a real quick one in there. We spent 2 years under Ange Postecoglou trying to build a squad that was attacking, and then we bring a defensive manager in to replace him. So these players, you know, we've kind of set up an attacking squad, and then we bring in a manager that's all defensive. We brought in Paulinho, who we were screaming for 2 years, that type of player. And then, you know, he's the only real defensive player we've brought in like that. But you know, you cannot start to build an attacking squad and then bring in a defensive manager. It just does not make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Bato, I look forward to having a discussion with you tomorrow, my man. Good, big up. We've also got Surreal McCoy's. At what point do you start looking at Enoch? I mean, look, at the end of the day, I've always tried to highlight, you know, that I do think Enoch is a massive problem at this football club. And, you know, at the end of the day, that's the bigger goal, granted. But we shouldn't just give Frank the Enoch pass, shouldn't just give players the Enoch pass. Yes, they were brought here by them, but if they're not good enough, you can't just keep them in. You've got to get rid of them as well. Under this ownership, it's so important we have the right people in place, because they're never going to do the right things to really make us successful. But I think everyone looks at Enoch. But right now, Enoch selling tomorrow, it's not like we can go and reinvest. Your transfer window's closed. There's nothing we can do. So right now, you have to look at the manager. But I do think, to be fair, it's also important, like Soren keeps saying, you also have to keep sending stuff upstairs beyond that as well. But with the window closed, where we are right now, you have to look at the easiest thing to change, and that's the manager right now. But look, guys, with the injuries we've got, I think Destiny Doggy is the latest one out injured now. I think he's out for 4 to 5 weeks, which is sad. What sort of formation are we expecting tonight? Are we expecting them with injuries to revert back to a 4-2-3-1? Or are we still expecting them to sort of stick with the 3-4-3 and just make the pieces of the puzzle work tonight? Jack?
I think he'll probably stick with a back five. I think he'll stick with a back five. It just seems like that's what he's felt like is the formation to go with to keep us in games. Like I said, it's not like we've been walloped in any of these recent, games for the most part. I don't think we've gotten the results that we've needed. I don't even think the performances have been in any way, shape, or form that great, to be honest. But it's not like we're just getting absolutely blown away, to be honest. Maybe the only case would have been Man City in the first half. But to be fair, he then made the change to go to a back four, and we got back into the game. So maybe just starting out in a back five might be the way that he's going to go through the rest of the season. I don't think it's the right way to go for it. I think it should be a back four, to be perfectly honest, but he doesn't seem to feel that way. And you could make the case that at least the games have been a tad bit closer. We're not getting absolutely destroyed as often by teams when we've been playing in a back five. And maybe it also allows players like Xavi Simons, Odegaard to get more of a license to sort of stay forward and not have to track back all the time as well. Via Thomas Frank's instructions. And maybe part of it too, just lastly, is that he's so obsessed with midfielders passing sideways, backwards, just recycling it, not playing it forwards. You have that excuse when you only have 2 players in midfield. Their job is just to recycle it. Their job is to not take any risks, not play any dangerous passes that could lead to a bad turnover or transition. And maybe with the back five, with only 2 guys in midfield, you have that excuse to sort of have your midfielders just recycle it from side to side, and backwards. And just maybe it suits Thomas Frank. At the end of the day, this is what he did often at Brentford. Yes, there were seasons where he had a back four, but there were a lot of seasons where he had a back five for huge periods. So it seems like this is his tried and trusted formation.
I'm a bit
whatever it is, that will get results, I guess.
Yeah, look, to be honest with you, I don't really care about the formation. I think that's I think that changes anyway sometimes throughout games now in modern day football. For me, it's the instructions you employ with it. Regardless whether it's 4-2-3-1 or 3-4-3, just don't sit so deep where you're inviting the opposition on. Learn your lessons. We are going to concede goals. We will crumble under that pressure. When we got back in against Man City, we went after them. We showed them no respect. We went man for man. We pressed them into mistakes. Do that. That's exactly what Newcastle are going to do here to us tonight. They do it every time we play against them. Eddie Howe, rinse and repeat. Press them, force Vicario into long ball. It's going to go aimlessly anywhere. We'll pick that up. We'll come back. Eventually, we'll score. So for me, it's about flipping that and going after them instead, giving them something to think about tonight. That's what I would prefer to do. But Soren, just before the lineups do come out, I mean, we'll answer this from Kate, and then we'll get your what would be your sort of preferred formation. Kate says, Dave, Jack, and panel, if players are supposed to be better than where we are, then does that show they are not playing for Frank then?
I don't know if they're not playing for Frank. I would say, do they just not understand what he's wanting, or do they just not? Yeah, we sort of looked at it when Ange was in charge, and we said the players don't understand what they're supposed to be doing. And you look at it now and you just think, again, is it a case of, like I said, we've kind of put a fairly attacking squad together, and then we're asking them to play defensive? And as much as, we can sit here and argue, the professional footballers, they're at the top of the profession, they should be able to play whichever way they're told to play. I do think if you bring a certain style of player in, you can't expect him not to play that way. And whether it's that they're not playing for Frank, or I would probably say they're playing for him, but they don't believe in him, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think that's.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of games where I would say actually it's not the fault of the effort; it's just clearly a fault of the tactics and the instructions that they've come out with from the manager. Like it just wasn't. They weren't set up to win by the manager, in that he just didn't get things right. But there have been plenty of games where I would never say that the guys aren't running or not, trying hard enough. They clearly are. It's just they've not been set up to win, and that's the tweaks and the tactics and the setup that the manager needs to put in. But in true Thomas Frank fashion, he has dropped Palhinha. Sorry, Dave, you're going to maybe come
No,
in.
just quickly. I was just going to add to that just quickly, Jack. I think we've seen that, play out in front of us in the Man City game. When they done what the manager asked them to do in the first half, we were 2-0 down. When the handbrake came off, we went at them 2-2. But as soon as we got back into the game, we sat back off them. You know what I mean? And that shows me that, when you have Man City to the sword like that and on the ropes, you keep going. You go for the third, then you sit back. He didn't do that. As soon as we scored, they didn't wrestle back control of the game. We just gifted it back to them. We sat back in then for the last 15 minutes. And I just don't think the tactics are getting the best out of this squad. Faz Radfar also says, we win Champions League. Should the stadium be named Frank Booing Arena? I'm not sure what we'll call it, to be honest with you. Whoever scores the winner, I suppose we'll give it to them, like Papa Matasar Arena or something like that. I don't want anything to be named after Frank at this football club, because it's just going to bring in a sort of a losing culture, to be honest with you, Faz Radfar. But I appreciate the levity at times like this, though, my man. I really do. Big yourself up. Jack, lineup. Let's get into it.
Yeah, Vicario in goals, Dragic and Van de Ven as your center backs. I'd assume Archie Gray as a right back, and then Jed Spence as left back. Yeah. And then in midfield, it's going to be probably Basuma, Gallagher, and Sarr, with then Simmons, Odebear, and Solanke up top. So probably Sarr being given that license to bomb up and down, just also be an extra midfielder to combat with, we know Newcastle, I think they're probably strongest in midfield. So it's probably he's gone for an extra midfielder in there. But the no Palhinha is honestly bizarre to me. The fact that he's now brought Basuma back into the team, it's just, again, after the mistake, also, this is a massive game. We saw the mistake that Basuma made against Man City. So, again, this is what I'm saying. It's amazing people give excuses to Thomas Frank. I mean, these are the decisions he's made as a manager. He's decided to drop Basuma for Palhinha. Palhinha, arguably one of his best players this whole season. And he's decided to drop him in one of the biggest games of the season. Doesn't make sense. And
I wouldn't mind. Basuma was the one that gave away the first goal against Man City by being loose in possession. You know what I mean? But look, we'll reward him, even though Palhinha has been unbelievable last couple of games. Again, we'll just drop him to the bench. It's been happening all season long. It's absolutely insanity. What I would say is Dermot and Soren did confiscate Basuma's balloons, and they were clearly on them at the start of the show. So maybe we might actually get a fully focused Basuma tonight. We might actually get a performance out of them. But no, I'm only joking with you, Soren. What's your thoughts on this lineup here?
Game.
Sack him, is that what you said?
Yeah, I mean, so somebody's put in the chat, maybe Paulinho can't play 2 games in a row. I kind of understand that, but he's got 12 days off.
Yeah.
Well, so how can he not start tonight? I mean, you've got one of the, you've got probably one of the best number 6s in the league in your squad, and you don't play him. It just does not make any sense to me. And look, Basuma has played a little bit better over the last few games, and I get that, but geez, I just don't get where the guy is coming from. Had we got another, if we were playing Arsenal on Saturday, could kind of understand not playing Paulinho today, but we're not. And it just does not make any sense to me whatsoever, this lineup of a game where we really do need to win tonight. Now, unless he's putting this team out thinking, right, I can get my payout tonight because we're going to get battered, then fair enough. I understand what he's done, but it's a crime against football. It's a crime against football, full stop. And I mean, look, if Paulinho's injured, I'll take it all back. You know, if he's got a niggle, if there's a problem, if he can't play, fair enough. But if he's fit and he's on that bench, then the guy needs to go.
I mean, it's just hilarious how many times this has happened this season where he's dropped a player that's been playing well for him, if not saving his ass, in my opinion. You know, some of these guys that he's dropped have actually been his best players, saving him from really bad results, and then he rewards them by putting them on the bench.
You've got a back four there, and you've got Paulinho, who is one of the best number sixes still available to us, and you don't play him.
It's one of his best goal scorers, Paulinho, too.
Yeah, exactly. But it would allow the rest of the team to play.
I genuinely think looking at that midfield, right, with Gallagher, Basuma, and Sarr, I genuinely think looking at it, it's something like that. Maybe I think we said on the predicted lineup, Jack, where I was sort of saying you have to get after that Newcastle midfield and stop them from playing. You have to get in and around them. And I think when you look at the options he's put in there, I think that might be the game plan to try and suffocate the midfield, because Basuma, despite him being a tit in possession, he's mobile. Yeah. You know, you look at Conor Gallagher, he's known for being mobile, although he looks like he's running in quicksand at Tottenham. Papa Sarr gives you plenty of energy. But I think this is where he lets himself down. Paulinho will help you from defensive set pieces. Paulinho will help you from attacking set pieces. And not only that, but Paulinho is one of the best ball winners I've seen in the Tottenham midfield in a long, long time. I just don't understand why he has took him out of the team. It is just none. Like, I understand the logic around the midfield if that's the game plan, but you've got to play Paulinho in there over Conor Gallagher or Basuma. You have to. He's your biggest disruptor in there. It's just absolutely madness, and I just think we are going to rue not having Paulinho in there. At the end of the day, if I'm going in for a midfield battle like that and I know I have to get in around the midfield, I'm just going to tell Paulinho just to step up a bit closer. Make sure you're in amongst that, so as soon as they get the ball, you're on them. I just don't understand it. Like, I understand the game plan. It's just the wrong personnel, in my opinion.
100%. Just want to say, everybody, and we'll get to Faz here. I think we had close to 400 people in the house on YouTube here. So if you guys could for us, smash the like button. We're not even at 200 likes. I'd like to hope that at least half of you want to see us win today and create some positive vibes, but also as well, if you have enjoyed the stream, we would appreciate it. Get to up to 200 likes. We would appreciate it a lot. But Faz Radfars, yeah. Did we get Faz?
No, go on.
Did we get Faz saying we should turn to the Frank booing arena?
Yeah. I was saying I don't want anything named after Frank, Jack. I think, just bring that loser culture. We're trying to implement a winning culture here, So I definitely don't want that. Big up, Scotty Hynam. Good to see you as well. RST is calling me out. He says, Dave, stop trying to rationalize the lineup and call for what it is. I'm not trying to rationalize it, but I do think,
try to be fair.
Part of my responsibility to be here is to try and maybe see what the game plan is and maybe try and put that out there. But I'm not condoning it. I've said there's a way of fitting Paulinho into that game plan, so I'm not rationalizing it at all, RST. I maybe not saying it the way you want me to say it, but I do think a part of what I'm supposed to be doing here is if I can see things, point it out. And then we've got this from Chris. He says, not looking forward to tonight. We are in a relegation battle, and yet Frank's in denial, worst manager ever. He sort of refused to sort of admit to it or sort of be dragged into that conversation in the pre-match press conference. To a certain degree, if you're trying to not focus on that within the camp and trying to look up, I can understand it. But it doesn't help his case towards the media, towards the fans. And it's like, it's so obvious where we are. And to be honest with you, I'm concerned that it maybe reflects the attitude of Johan Lang Vinay, the Lewis family, the board. I think, that's where my main concern comes in. If he's refusing to talk about it, is that the same throughout the rest of the club? And at what point then does that become negligence? We asked that question earlier in the show. At what point does, it become negligence? And I think we're approaching that point. But look, at the end of the day, it's just, we're in it. We know what reality is, Chris, unfortunately. Member for 50 months. Jack, anything you want to say to Chris here?
Good to have you, Chris. I know it's a Newcastle derby for you as well. Hide behind the couch. Maybe just take tomorrow's day off of work. Or if we do end up getting a good win, show up nice and early, wait for everybody to come into the office, be the first one in there. Big up, Chris. Big up to you, my man. Big game for him. It's his derby.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is a massive game for you, actually, Chris. I forgot about that, actually, to be brutally honest with you. We better get the job done tonight. And big up, Eugene tried to go to work and watch Spurs, was tempted to watch Olympic women's curling instead. To be honest with you, I wouldn't blame you. I think there's plenty of other things you could watch. I think, watching Bear in the Big Blue House with the kids or Barney the Dinosaur at this point would probably be more entertaining and less stressful, to be brutally honest with you. But Eugene, we just need the win, sir. We just need the win, my man. We need it badly. Soren, give me a score prediction.
I was going 3-1, and I look at that and I just think I see them scoring more than one goal tonight. I honestly don't know. It's as simple as that. I'm going to go for a 2-1, and just hope beyond hope. That the players do it for us. But I have less faith in the win tonight than I did when we started.
Fair enough. So I'm just taking my pre-match notes about Basuma being included over Paulinia. Oh, look, hopefully we can get the job done tonight. We've also got Sebas Wolf says, imagine if West Ham wins. I don't even want to think about that, to be honest with you, Sebas. I'm trying to park that to the back of my mind and just concentrate on Tottenham Hotspur today. Hopefully you're right, Soren. Hopefully we come out there, the right side of the scoreline. But I do worry about Basuma in there over Paulinia. I mean, honestly, Basuma made Frank drop his tactic pad. You go back and watch that first goal. He threw it to the ground out of frustration, yet he brings the guy back in. Let's reward him for costing us a goal. It's absolutely mind-boggling. But guys, that's it from us on our pre-match build-up today. You want to hear further of mine and Jack's thoughts ahead of the game in terms of line up, how we think the night's going to go and stuff like that. Make sure you tune back in for the watch along starting at 7 p.m, half an hour's time. I want to say a massive thank you to, again, Soren, giving up his time to be here. Really, really appreciate that, my man. And actually really enjoyed the conversation today with yourself and Dermot. And of course, Dermot as well for giving up his time today. It was a really, really good discussion. I want to thank the people I've gone the extra mile as well today. Logan, Detron, Moondog, Paul Brown, Beto, who hopefully, Betower, you can tell me how it's pronounced tomorrow, actually. Hopefully we get to speak to you tomorrow evening. Faz Radfar, and also Chris as well. Really appreciate the generosity. And most importantly, you guys at home for tuning in, engaging with us, getting your comments in, and listening to what we have to say. We'll see you back here for the watch along. Despite what's going on with the club, despite our frustrations, we have to try and get behind the team tonight. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Please win. Please.
Oh, beg you.